She never expected this. A heartfelt Western drama. The desert stretched endlessly beneath a copper sky. Wind whispered through the canyons, carrying the scent of dust and distant rain. Horses neighed somewhere near the old station, and the creak of a weathered sign marked the town, Red Creek. It had been 10 long years since Clara Boone last saw this place, 10 years since she'd left her heart buried in the red dirt. Now, stepping down from the coach, she was a different woman. The city had polished her voice, softened her hands, but deep down, the prairie still lived in her veins. Her gloved hand trembled as she looked around. The saloon still stood, the old sheriff's office leaned a bit more, and the hills still glowed gold at sunset. But one thing was gone. Eli Carter, the man she once thought she'd marry, the man she left behind without a word. Dash, dash, dash. The coach rumbled away, leaving Clara in a swirl of dust. Her eyes followed the trail that led west, toward the Carter ranch. The same road she'd once ridden bareback with a ribbon in her hair and laughter in her heart. Now, her purpose was different. Her father had passed in the spring, leaving her the Boone property. She'd come back to sell it. Nothing more, nothing less. At least, that's what she told herself. Dash, dash, dash. The saloon doors swung as she entered, boots echoing on the worn floorboards. Heads turned, men who remembered, women who whispered. Red Creek hadn't forgotten the girl who'd left for San Francisco with dreams bigger than this dusty town. Clara Boone, said a deep voice behind the bar. Her heart paused. Eli Carter stood there, broad-shouldered and sunburned, the same steady eyes she'd dreamed about for years. His once boyish face had lines now, but they only made him stronger. Eli, she breathed, barely audible. Didn't expect to see you again, he said, wiping a glass that didn't need wiping. I came to settle my father's affairs. He nodded. He was a good man. Sorry for your loss. There was silence between them, heavy as summer heat. You still run the ranch? She asked finally. Still run it. Lost most of the cattle 2 winters back. But I'm holding on. Something flickered in his voice. Pride, pain, maybe both. Dash, dash, dash. Later that evening, Clara sat by the window of the old Boone house. The moon rose over the plains, lighting the empty fields. The same fields Eli once helped her father plow when they were young. She remembered those summer nights, barefoot in the dirt, Eli's laughter echoing as they chased fireflies. She remembered the promise he'd whispered before she left. No matter how far you go, I'll wait. But she hadn't waited. The city had swept her away, with fine dresses and fancy company. And though none of it filled the hole in her heart, she never found the courage to return, until now. Dash, dash, dash. The next morning, Clara rode out to the ranch. The land was rougher than she remembered, dotted with broken fences and dry wells. Eli was out by the corral, mending wood in the early light. You shouldn't be out here alone, he said, not looking up. I used to ride this trail every morning. Used to, he echoed. A lot's changed since then. She dismounted, brushing dust from her skirt. Eli, I didn't come to stir up the past. He stopped hammering. Then why'd you come here at all, Clara? Her throat tightened. To say goodbye, for good this time. He looked at her, the pain raw in his eyes. You said that once before. Only difference is, last time, you didn't say a word. Dash, dash, dash. They stood in silence as the wind carried a tumbleweed across the field. The moment stretched between them, full of things unsaid. Finally, Eli sighed and leaned against the fence. You remember the night of the dance? The one before you left. How could I forget? You told me you'd be back after a week in the city. I waited, Clara. I waited years. Her eyes glistened. I know. I was scared. I thought I'd come back to nothing. That you'd moved on. I did try, he said quietly. But no one ever felt right. A long pause. Then, softly, didn't you ever miss this place? She looked around, the golden hills, the vast sky. Every single day. Dash, dash, dash. That night, the wind rose hard against the plains. A storm rolled in from the west, thunder echoing like the past itself. Clara found herself back at the Boone house, staring at old photographs, her father, the ranch, her mother before she passed. And in one photo, Eli, smiling beside a younger Clara, dust on their faces and hope in their eyes. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She whispered, maybe I should have stayed. Then, a knock at the door. Dash, dash, dash. Eli stood there, soaked from the rain. I couldn't sleep, he said. Thought maybe you couldn't either. She stepped aside to let him in. The candlelight flickered as thunder rolled overhead. I keep thinking, he began, maybe it wasn't too late. Her heart pounded. Too late for what? For us. Dash dash dash. They stood inches apart, the years between them melting away in the flicker of the fire. She could see the hurt in his eyes, but also the same warmth that had once made her fall in love. Eli, he took a slow breath. You were the only thing I ever wanted, Clara. But you chose the city, and I had to live with that. I made a mistake, she whispered. I thought I needed more. Turns out, more isn't always better. He stepped closer. Then why come back now? Because my heart never really left. Dash dash dash. The storm raged outside as silence filled the space between them. Then Eli reached out, brushing a tear from her cheek. I don't know if I can trust you again, he said. I don't expect you to. I just wanted you to know the truth before I go. He looked at her a long moment. You still thinking of selling your father's land? She nodded. There's nothing here for me anymore. Maybe there could be, he said softly. Her breath caught. I mean if you're willing to start over. Dash dash dash. The next morning, the sun rose bright and golden, washing the land clean after the storm. Clara stepped out onto the porch, the air cool and alive. Eli was waiting by his horse. I'm heading into town, he said. Need supplies? She smiled faintly. I'll come with you. He raised an eyebrow. You sure? Yeah, I think it's time I stopped running. Dash dash dash. Days turned to weeks. Clara stayed, helping Eli on the ranch. She learned to mend fences again, to ride the dusty trails, to breathe the wild air that once felt like home. Slowly, the walls between them began to fall. One evening, as the sun bled red across the hills, Eli brought out his guitar, an old one she remembered from years ago. He strummed a few soft chords. Still remember this tune? She smiled. You used to play it under the cottonwood tree. He nodded. I played it the night before you left. Thought maybe you'd hear it, wherever you went. Her eyes welled with tears. I heard it tonight. Dash dash dash. As twilight deepened, Eli looked at her across the firelight. You staying this time? She took his hand. If you'll have me. He smiled, a quiet, withered smile that said more than words ever could. You always had a home here, Clara. Dash dash dash. Weeks later, word spread through Red Creek. The Boone Ranch wasn't for sale anymore. Folks said Miss Boone had decided to stay. Some whispered she'd fallen in love again. One morning, the townsfolk saw them riding together, Eli and Clara, side by side across the open prairie, laughter carried by the wind. The same road that once took her away now brought her home. Again, and as the sun climbed high over Red Creek, she realized something she never expected. That love, like the land, endures, weathered, scarred, but unbroken.